The blue-skinned alien named Kextool stood in front of the massive communication device. His hands shook as he typed the message that would decide the fate of his entire species. The Zephyrians were dying. The evil Vorthan Empire had invaded their peaceful world 3 months ago, and now they were running out of time. "Are you sure this will work?" asked Elder Zixnau, his old voice filled with worry. The wrinkled alien looked at the young navigator with desperate eyes. Kextool nodded, though he wasn't really sure at all. "The old records say there is a species called Terrans. They are known as peacekeepers. They help settle fights between different worlds. If anyone can help us, it's them." The problem was that their ancient database was very old. The information about humans had been passed down through many alien races over hundreds of years. Each time the story was told, some details changed. What the Zephyrians thought they knew about humans was not exactly right. The young alien pressed the final button. A bright light filled the room as the message shot out into space. But Kextool had made a terrible mistake. Instead of sending the message to the human diplomatic channels, he had accidentally sent it to their military frequencies. Far away in space, Admiral Jake Morrison was drinking his morning coffee on the bridge of the UES Defiant. The tall, gray-haired man had served in the human space fleet for 30 years. He was known for being calm and smart, even in dangerous situations. "Admiral, we're getting a strange signal," called out Lieutenant Tony Garcia from the communication station. "It's not from any human world." Morrison walked over to the young officer. "What does it say?" Garcia frowned as he read the message on his screen. "It's hard to understand, sir. The translation is really bad. But it sounds like someone is asking for military help. They say their people are about to be wiped out by something called the Vorthan Empire." The Admiral's face became serious. In human space, there were strict rules about helping other species. If someone was facing complete destruction, humans were required to help. It was called Protocol 7. "Send this message to Fleet Command right away," Morrison ordered. "And get me Captain Lisa Grant on the Thunderbolt." Within minutes, the communication screen lit up with the face of Captain Grant. The young woman had short brown hair and sharp green eyes. She was one of the best ship captains in the fleet. "Jake, I got the same message," she said without waiting for him to speak. "What do you think?" "It sounds real to me," Morrison replied. The translation is messy, but the fear in their voice comes through clearly. Someone is asking for help. On another ship, called the UES Vengeance, Commander Ryan Burke was also reading the strange message. The stocky man with the thick beard was known for his quick temper and his loyalty to his friends. He immediately called both Morrison and Grant. "I don't care if this is some kind of trick," Burke said when the 3 officers were connected. "If there's even a small chance that innocent people are dying, we have to help them." Grant nodded. "I agree, but we need to be careful. We don't know anything about these Vorthans or how strong they are." Morrison looked at both of his fellow officers. "I'm sending this up to Fleet Command. If they approve, we'll go help these, what did they call themselves? Zephyrians?" Back on the Zephyrian homeworld, Kextool and the other leaders waited for an answer. They had no idea that their simple request for help had reached the human military instead of their diplomats. They expected maybe a small ship with a few negotiators who could help them talk to the Vorthans. "How long do you think it will take?" asked Elder ZIX-NAL.KE. Kextool checked his calculations. "If they come from where I think they are, maybe 2 weeks. But Elder, what if they don't come at all? What if they're too busy with their own problems?" The old alien put his hand on the young navigator's shoulder. "Then we will face our fate with dignity. But I have a feeling about these Terrans. Something tells me they are not like other species." He was right, but not in the way he expected. In the human capital on Earth, President Amanda Clark was reading the report that had just arrived from Fleet Command. The middle-aged woman with graying hair had been president for 6 years. She had dealt with many crises, but never anything like this. "Are we sure this message is real?" she asked General Marcus Webb, her military advisor. The tall, thin general nodded. "Our experts have checked it many times. The signal came from a star system about 2 weeks away. Our satellites detected energy weapons being used in that area. Something big is happening there." President Clark stood up and walked to the window. She could see the lights of the city below, filled with millions of people living peaceful lives. "If we help these aliens, it could change everything. This would be our first real contact with hostile aliens." "Ma'am," said General Webb, "our laws are clear. If someone asks for help against genocide, we must respond. The question is not whether we should help, but how much help we should send." The president thought for a moment. "What do you recommend?" "I suggest we send a full battle group, 3 fleets, just to be safe. If these Vorthans are as dangerous as they sound, we need to be ready for anything." Clark nodded slowly. "Do it. But remember, we're going there to help, not to conquer. Make sure our officers understand that." As the orders went out across human space, thousands of ships began to move. The largest military force in human history was assembling to help a species they had never met, based on a message they had barely understood. The Zephyrians had no idea what was coming their way. Fleet Admiral Paul Martinez stood in the massive command center on Earth, watching as hundreds of ships gathered in space above the planet. The dark-skinned man with the serious face had been chosen to lead the largest military operation in human history. His job was to save an alien species he had never seen from an enemy he knew nothing about. "Admiral, the Third Fleet is ready," reported Captain Danny Foster, a young officer with bright blue eyes and blonde hair. "All 298 ships are in position and waiting for orders." Martinez nodded and looked at the huge screen that showed the gathering. Fleet. Ships of all sizes floated in perfect formation. There were massive battleships as long as city blocks, fast attack ships that could move like lightning, and carrier ships filled with thousands of fighter planes. "What about the 7th Fleet?" Martinez asked. "Also ready, sir," said Commander Sarah Collins, a red-haired woman who was known for her skill in battle. "Admiral Lorison reports that all 311 ships are armed and ready to go." The Admiral walked over to another screen that showed the 9th Fleet. "And Commander Burke?" "The 9th Fleet is the smallest, but they're our best fighters," Collins replied. "All 238 ships are ready. Commander Burke says his people are excited to help these Zephyrians." Martinez smiled for the first time in days. "Good. That's 847 ships total. I think that should be enough to handle whatever these Vorthans can throw at us." In another part of the command center, Dr. Helen Parker was working with her team to learn everything they could about the aliens they were going to help. The young scientist with long brown hair was the best xenobiologist in human space. Her job was to understand alien life forms. "What do we know about the Zephyrians?" asked Lieutenant Colonel Amy Rogers, the intelligence officer. The blonde woman with glasses was responsible for gathering information about both the Zephyrians and their enemies. Dr. Parker looked at her notes. "Not much, I'm afraid. From what we can tell from their message, they're a peaceful species. They seem to be farmers and scientists, not warriors. They've never fought a real war before." "What about their planet?" Rogers asked. "It's similar to Earth, but with more water. The atmosphere is safe for humans to breathe. The gravity is a little lighter than what we're used to." Parker pulled up a picture on her screen. "This is what we think a Zephyrian looks like, based on the signal we received." The picture showed a tall, thin creature with blue skin and large eyes. It looked gentle and intelligent, not like a warrior at all. They look harmless, Rogers said. No wonder they need help. Meanwhile, General Marcus Webb was working with Admiral Morrison to plan their attack strategy. The two men sat in a room covered with maps and charts, trying to figure out how to fight an enemy they had never seen. The problem is that we don't know anything about Vorthan technology, Webb said, running his hand through his gray hair. We don't know how strong their ships are, or how many soldiers they have. Morrison looked at the star chart that showed the Zephyrian system. From what we can tell, they've been attacking for 3 months. If they wanted to destroy the planet completely, they would have done it already. That means they want to capture it, not destroy it. Why would they want to capture it? Webb asked. Maybe they want the Zephyrians as slaves, Morrison said with anger in his voice. Or maybe they want the planet's resources. Either way, we're going to stop them. Back in the Zephyrian system, the aliens were getting more worried every day. Kekstool checked his instruments constantly, looking for any sign of the Terran diplomats he had called for help. Still nothing, he reported to Elder Zixnell. But I'm detecting some strange energy readings at the edge of our system. Much stronger than anything the Vorthans have. The old alien looked worried. Could it be more Vorthan ships? I don't think so, Kekstool said, studying his readings. This energy signature is completely different. It's single quotes stot ... bigger, much bigger. On the other side of the planet, the Vorthan War Commander Vex Gorth was also detecting the strange energy. Readings. A massive creature with gray skin and red eyes had conquered 17 worlds for the Vorthan Empire. He had never seen readings like these before. What is that? He growled at his second-in-command, a smaller alien with sharp teeth. We don't know, Commander, the alien replied nervously. But whatever it is, it's huge. The energy signature is like nothing in our databases. Vexgorth's eyes narrowed. Could the Zephyrians have called for help? Impossible, sir. They don't have any allies. They're completely alone. The war commander wasn't so sure. Send out scout ships. I want to know what's coming. But the Vorthan scouts would never make it to the edge of the system. Captain Foster's reconnaissance ship UES Pathfinder was already there, hidden and watching everything. The small, fast ship was designed to gather information without being seen. Captain, I'm detecting Vorthan movement, reported his sensor officer, a young woman named Lisa Murphy. 3 scout ships are heading our way. Foster smiled. Let them come. It's time. We introduced ourselves. The 3 Vorthan ships moved slowly toward the edge of the system, their primitive sensors scanning for threats. They had no idea that the most advanced stealth ship in human space was watching their every move. Should we destroy them, sir? Asked Foster's weapons officer. No, Foster replied. We're here to help the Zephyrians, not start a war. But if they attack us first... He left the sentence unfinished. The Vorthan ships continued their search, moving closer and closer to the Pathfinder. Finally, when they were only a few thousand kilometers away, Foster decided to reveal himself. This is Captain Danny Foster. Of the Terran vessel Pathfinder, he broadcast on all frequencies. You are in violation of interstellar law. Leave this system immediately. The Vorthan ships stopped moving, clearly shocked by the sudden appearance of the human ship. For a moment, there was silence. Then the lead Vorthan ship responded. Unknown vessel, this system belongs to the Vorthan Empire. You have no authority here. Foster's voice became cold. We are here at the request of the Zephyrians. You have one chance to leave peacefully. We do not recognize your authority. The Vorthan replied, Prepare to be destroyed. The 3 alien ships opened fire with their energy weapons. But their attacks bounced harmlessly off the Pathfinder's shields. Foster shook his head sadly. Big mistake, he said quietly. Then he spoke to his crew. Return fire. Disable their ships, but don't destroy them. We want prisoners. The Pathfinder's weapons fired once. All 3 Vorthan ships stopped working immediately, their systems completely shut down. The aliens inside were alive but helpless. "Sir," reported the communications officer, "the Zephyrians are trying to contact us. They detected our weapons fire." Foster smiled. "Put them through. It's time we properly introduced ourselves." The screen lit up with the face of a blue-skinned alien. It was Kextool, and he looked very confused and frightened. "Terran vessel." The alien said in broken English, "We called for diplomatic help. We were expecting a small mediation team. Where are your negotiators?" Foster looked at the alien with sympathy. "I'm sorry, friend. I think there's been a misunderstanding. We're not diplomats. We're the military, and we brought a lot more than a small team." Kextool's large eyes grew even larger. "Military? How many ships did you bring?" Foster paused for a moment, then answered. "Honestly, 847 ships and about 2.3 million soldiers. We came here to end this war." The alien's face went pale blue. 2.3 million soldiers? But we only asked for help with negotiations. "Well," Foster said with a small smile, "I guess you're about to get a lot more help than you expected." The space around the Zephyrian system suddenly filled with light as 847 human ships dropped out of hyperspace. The massive fleet appeared all at once, their engines creating a wall of blue fire that could be seen from the planet's surface. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, watching as his ships took their positions. The veteran officer had seen many battles, but never anything like this. His fleet was so large that it took up half the solar system. "Sir, we're getting communications from both the Zephyrians and the Vorthans," reported Lieutenant Garcia. "The Zephyrians sound scared, and the Vorthans sound, well, they sound scared too." Morrison nodded. "Put the Zephyrians through first. We need to talk to the people we came to help." The main screen lit up with the face of an elderly blue-skinned alien. It was Elder Zixnal, and he looked completely overwhelmed by what he was seeing. "Great Terran Fleet," the alien said in shaky English, "we are grateful for your response to our call for help. But we must tell you, there has been a mistake. We asked for diplomatic help, not military action." Morrison's expression was kind but firm. "Elder, I understand there was a misunderstanding, but we're here now, and we don't abandon people who need help. The Vorthans have invaded your world and threatened your people. That's not something we can ignore." "But the violence," the alien protested. "We are a peaceful people. We don't want war." "Neither do we," Morrison replied. "But sometimes good. People have to fight to protect those who can't protect themselves. Don't worry, Elder. We'll handle this." On the other side of the system, War Commander Thexgorth was staring at his sensor readings in disbelief. The massive gray alien had conquered many worlds, but he had never seen anything like the human fleet. "How many ships are there?" he demanded from his officers. "Over 800, Commander," replied his second-in-command, his voice shaking. "And their energy readings are off the scale. Each one of their big ships has more firepower than our entire fleet." Thexgorth's red eyes narrowed. "That's impossible. No species has that kind of military power." "Sir, they're trying to communicate." "With us," reported the communications officer. "Put them through," the war commander growled. The screen showed the face of Admiral Morrison. The human looked calm and professional, which somehow made him more frightening than if he had been angry. "War Commander Thexgorth," Morrison said, "I am Admiral Morrison of the Terran Fleet. You have invaded the territory of a peaceful species and threatened them with extinction. I'm giving you one chance to withdraw all your forces from this system." Thexgorth stood up to his full height, trying to look intimidating. "Unknown aliens, This system belongs to the Vorthan Empire by right of conquest. We have claimed it according to the ancient laws of war. Morrison's expression didn't change. The only law we recognize is the right of peaceful species to exist without fear. You have 1 hour to begin withdrawal, or we will remove you by force. You dare threaten the Vorthan Empire? Dexgorth roared. We have conquered 17 worlds. We will not be driven away by unknown aliens. Then you've made your choice, Morrison said calmly, and cut the communication. The Admiral turned to his officers. All ships, battle stations, prepare for Operation Hammerfall. Across the human fleet, thousands of people prepared for battle. On the Hughes Thunderbolt, Captain Lisa Grant checked her weapon systems one final time. The young woman had trained for this moment her entire career. All fighters, prepare for launch, she announced over the ship's communication system. Remember, we're here to protect the innocent. Fight hard, but fight smart. On the UE's Vengeance, Commander Ryan Burke was talking to his crew in the hangar bay. The stocky man with the thick beard looked at the faces of his fighters and felt proud. Listen up, people, he said in his rough voice. These Vorthans think they can terrorize peaceful aliens just because they're stronger. Well, they're about to learn what happens when you pick on someone who has friends with bigger guns. The pilots laughed, but they were nervous too. This was first contact with a hostile alien species, and nobody knew exactly what to expect. Captain Danny Foster, now commanding a squadron of fast attack ships, received his orders from Admiral Morrison. Danny, take your ships and hit their outer defenses. We need to clear a path for the main assault. Understood, Admiral, Foster replied. We'll soften them up for you. The first wave of human fighters launched from their carriers like a swarm of angry bees. There were over 12,000 small ships, each one faster and more advanced than anything the Vorthans had ever seen. Commander Sarah Collins led the attack, her red hair streaming behind her as she piloted her fighter toward the enemy. She had been in many battles, but never one where so much was at stake. All wings, stay in formation, she commanded. Let's show these aliens what human pilots can do. The Vorthan ships opened fire first, their energy weapons creating a wall of green light between the two fleets. But the human fighters were too fast and too small to hit easily. They danced through the enemy fire like ghosts, their own weapons striking with deadly accuracy. Direct hit on the enemy command ship, reported one of Collins' pilots. Their shields are down to 60%. Good work, Collins replied. All ships, focus fire on their weapon systems. We want to disable them, not destroy them. The battle for the Zephyrian moon of Keth 7 became the first major engagement between humans and Vorthans. Captain Ben Davis commanded the UES Retribution, a massive battleship that was bigger than most Vorthan space stations. Sir, the enemy is concentrating their forces around the moon, reported his weapons officer. They're trying to use it as a shield, Davis smiled grimly. Then we'll go around. All ships, flanking maneuver. Let's show them that hiding behind a moon won't save them. The human ships moved with perfect coordination, surrounding the Vorthan forces like a pack of wolves. The aliens had never faced an enemy that could think and move so quickly. Enemy. Flagship is trying to escape, reported the sensor officer. Should we pursue? No, Davis replied. Let them run. Maybe they'll tell their friends what happened here. The battle lasted exactly 43 minutes. When it was over, the Vorthan fleet had lost half their ships and the rest were badly damaged. The human fleet had suffered only minor damage to a few ships and no casualties. Down on the Zephyrian homeworld, Elder Zixnell and his people watched the battle through their telescopes. They had never seen anything like it. The humans fought with a combination of advanced technology and tactical skill that was completely beyond Vorthan capabilities. "They're incredible," whispered Kextool. "The Terrans are actually winning." "Not just winning," the Elder replied in amazement. "They're dominating. The Vorthons are running away." As the surviving Vorthan ships fled deeper into the system, Admiral Morrison opened a communication channel to the Zephyrian leaders. "Elder Zixnal, this is Admiral Morrison. We've cleared the outer system of enemy forces. Are your people safe?" The old alien's face was filled with gratitude and wonder. "Yes, Admiral. Thanks to you, we are safe. But how did you defeat them so easily? The Vorthons have terrorized this region of space for generations." Morrison thought for a moment before answering. "Elder, sometimes the biggest bully in the neighborhood isn't really that tough. They just never met anyone willing to stand up to them. Today, they met us." "What happens now?" the Elder asked. "Now," Morrison said with determination, "we finish what the Vorthons started. But this time, we're going to make sure they never threaten anyone again." War Commander Thexgorth sat in his damaged command ship, staring at the reports from the battle. Half his fleet was gone, and the other half was barely functional. In 43 minutes, these unknown aliens had done what no enemy had ever done before. They had defeated the Vorthons in open battle. "Send a message to the High Command," he ordered. "Tell them we have encountered a new species. Tell them ... He paused, his pride making it hard to say the words. "Tell them we need help." But help would not come in time. The human fleet was already moving deeper into the system, and Admiral Morrison had no intention of letting the Vorthons regroup. The war that the Vorthons had started was about to become their worst nightmare. The Zephyrians had accidentally called for help, and humanity had answered with overwhelming force. Now the galaxy was about to learn what happened when peaceful species found protectors who were willing to fight for them. Fleet Admiral Paul Martinez stood in the command center of his flagship, looking at the reports coming in from across the star system. The human fleet had been fighting the Vorthons for 3 days now, and the results were better than he had hoped. "Admiral, we've received surrender offers from 12 Vorthan ships," reported Captain Foster, who had been promoted after his excellent work in the reconnaissance mission. "They're asking for mercy," Martinez nodded. "Tell them they can surrender. If they completely withdraw from Zephyrian space and release all prisoners, no negotiations, no conditions. And if they refuse?" Foster asked. "Then we continue the fight until they change their minds," Martinez replied firmly. The Admiral walked over to the main communication screen, where War Commander Thexgorth was waiting to speak with him. The massive gray alien looked tired and defeated, but his red eyes still burned with anger. "Terran Admiral," Thexgorth said, "you have won this battle, but the war is far from over. The Vorthan Empire has thousands of ships and millions of soldiers. We will not be stopped by one defeat." Martinez looked at the alien commander with cold eyes. "War Commander, let me make something clear. We didn't come here to fight one battle. We came here to end your threat to the Zephyrians. If that means destroying your entire empire, then that's what we'll do. You cannot be serious," Thexgorth growled. "The Vorthan Empire has existed for 1,000 years. We have conquered worlds across this entire region of space. Then it's time for your empire to learn that the galaxy has changed," Martinez replied. "There are new players in this game, and we don't allow bullies to terrorize innocent people." The war commander's face twisted with rage. "You dare call us bullies? We are conquerors. We take what we want by right of strength, and we protect what needs protecting by right of conscience," Martinez shot back. "The difference is that our strength comes from fighting for something bigger than ourselves. Your strength comes from picking on people weaker than you." Thexgorth cut the communication, but Martinez wasn't finished. He turned to his officers and gave the order that would change the course of the war. "All fleets, prepare for Operation Hammerfall. We're going to liberate every world the Vorthans have conquered. In this sector, across the human fleet, the news spread quickly. They weren't just fighting for the Zephyrians anymore. They were fighting to free every species that had suffered under Vorthan rule. Captain Rachel Torres commanded the assault on Nexus Prime, the most important Vorthan stronghold in the sector. The young woman with dark hair and fierce eyes led a task force of 50 ships toward the heavily defended planet. "Captain, we're detecting massive defensive installations on the planet's surface," reported her sensor officer. "They have energy cannons that can reach into orbit." Torres smiled grimly. "Then we'll have to take them out the hard way. Colonel Murphy, are your Marines ready?" Colonel Steve Murphy was the commander of the human ground forces. The big man, with the scarred face, had fought in every major conflict in recent human history. He was looking forward to testing his soldiers against alien enemies. "My people are ready, Captain," Murphy replied. "We've been studying Vorthan tactics for weeks. They're tough, but they're not as tough as they think they are." The assault on Nexus Prime began with a bombardment from orbit. Human ships fired precision strikes at the planet's defenses, creating gaps in their shield coverage. Then the landing ships launched, carrying thousands of human Marines toward the surface. Murphy led the first wave himself, his dropship racing through the planet's atmosphere under heavy fire. The big colonel gripped his weapon tightly as the ship shook from enemy attacks. 30 seconds to landing," announced the pilot. "It's going to be a hot zone down there." "That's how we like it," Murphy replied, checking his armor one final time. "All units, remember your training. These aliens are bigger than us, but they're not smarter than us. Use that advantage." The human Marines hit the ground running, there. Advanced armor and weapons, giving them a huge advantage over the Vorthan defenders. The aliens had never faced an enemy that could move so fast and fight so effectively. "Sector 7 is secure," reported Sergeant Lisa Brown, a tough woman who had grown up in the rough neighborhoods of Earth. "Enemy forces are retreating toward the city center." "Good work, Sergeant," Murphy replied. "All units, advance toward the command center. Let's end this quickly." Meanwhile, Dr. Helen Parker was working with scientists from the newly liberated worlds to understand the full extent of Vorthan cruelty. The young woman with the kind eyes had seen many terrible things in her career, but nothing had prepared her for what she discovered. "Admiral Martinez," she reported over the communication system, "I've been studying the Vorthan occupation records. They haven't just conquered these worlds. They've enslaved entire species. Some of these people have been under Vorthan rule for generations." Martinez felt his anger growing. "How many worlds are we talking about, Doctor?" "At least 47 in this sector alone," Parker replied. "And that's just what we've discovered so far. There could be more." The Admiral closed his eyes for a moment, thinking about the responsibility that had been placed on his shoulders. When they had left Earth, their mission was simple: help the Zephyrians. Now they were looking at liberating dozens of worlds and freeing millions of enslaved aliens. "Doctor, I want you to work with the liberated species to set up communication networks," Martinez ordered. "If there are more enslaved worlds out there, we need to know about them." Back on Earth, President Amanda Clark was dealing with the political consequences of the expanding war. The middle-aged woman sat in her office, reading reports from the UN's battlefield while her advisors argued about what to do next. "Ma'am, some members of Congress are worried about the cost of this operation," said her chief of staff, a nervous man named Robert Kim. "They're asking how long we can sustain a war this size." Clark looked up from her reports with tired eyes. "Robert, we opened this door when we decided to help the Zephyrians. We can't just free some enslaved species and leave the others to suffer. That's not who we are." "But the resources required," Kim protested. "We're talking about rebuilding entire civilizations." "Then we'll find the resources," Clark said firmly. History will judge us by what we do next, not by how much it costs. Commander Alex Thompson was coordinating with the liberated species to form a mutual defense pact. The young officer with the bright smile had a talent for diplomacy that served him well in dealing with different alien cultures. The Kulrani people are offering to provide raw materials for ship construction, he reported to Admiral Martinez. The Vexians want to contribute their knowledge of Vorthan technology. Everyone wants to help. Martinez smiled for the first time in days. Good. We're going to need all the help we can get. The Vorthans won't give up easily. On the Vorthan homeworld, the High Command was meeting in emergency session. The elderly aliens who ruled the Empire were struggling to understand how their mighty military had been defeated so quickly. War Commander Vexgorth reports that the Terrans have weapons beyond our understanding, reported the intelligence. Minister, their ships are faster, their weapons are more powerful, and their tactics are completely unpredictable. The Supreme Commander, an ancient alien with one blind eye, listened to the reports with growing alarm. How many ships do they have? Over 800 in the initial fleet, the intelligence minister replied. But our spies report that more ships are arriving every day. They may have thousands. Impossible, growled the war minister. No species has that kind of military power. Apparently, this one does, the Supreme Commander said quietly. And they're not just attacking us. They're liberating every world we've conquered. If we don't stop them soon, there won't be an empire left to rule. The meeting was interrupted by an urgent message from the front lines. A young communications officer ran into the room, his face pale with fear. Supreme Commander, we're receiving a direct communication from the Terran fleet. They want to speak with you personally. The Supreme Commander's good eye narrowed. Put them through. The main screen lit up with the face of Admiral Martinez. The human looked calm and professional, but there was steel in his voice. Supreme Commander, I am Admiral Martinez of the Terran fleet. I'm contacting you to offer the Vorthan Empire one final chance to surrender. Surrender? The Supreme Commander roared. The Vorthan Empire does not surrender to inferior species. Supreme Commander, let me explain your situation, Martinez continued calmly. We have liberated 47 worlds from your control. Your fleet has been reduced by 70%. Your remaining forces are scattered and demoralized. You have two choices. Surrender now and face justice, or fight on and face annihilation. The Supreme Commander was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he spoke again, his voice filled with hatred. What are your terms? Complete withdrawal from all conquered territories. Release of all enslaved species. Dismantling of your military. And war crimes trials for your leaders. Those terms are unacceptable, the Supreme Commander snarled. Martinez shrugged. Then the war continues. But understand this, we will not stop until every enslaved world is free, and every war criminal is brought to justice. The choice is yours. The communication ended, and the Vorthan leaders sat in silence. For the war ended not with a great battle, but with a simple message. After 6 months of fighting, Supreme Commander Vex Thule of the Vorthan Empire sent a single communication to Admiral Martinez. We surrender. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the Mars, bridge of the UES Defiant, watching as the last Vorthan warships powered down their weapons and prepared to be escorted to prison camps. The gray-haired veteran had seen many wars end, but none quite like this one. Sir, the Vorthan Supreme Commander is requesting permission to come aboard, reported Lieutenant Garcia. He wants to personally surrender to you. Morrison nodded. Grant permission, but keep him under heavy guard. I don't trust these aliens even in defeat. An hour later, the massive form of Supreme Commander Vex Thule stood in the Defiance conference room. The ancient alien looked tired and broken, his one good eye filled with the weight of his empire's destruction. "Admiral Morrison," the alien said in heavily accented English, "I formally surrender the Vorthan Empire to your forces. Our military is disbanded, our conquered worlds are released, and our leaders will submit to your justice." Morrison looked at the alien commander with a mixture of respect and disgust. "Supreme Commander, your empire terrorized this region of space for generations. Millions of innocent people died because of your people's actions. Justice will be served." "I understand," Vexthul replied quietly. "But I must ask, what will become of the Vorthan people? Will you exterminate us as we would have done to others?" Morrison's expression softened slightly. "Supreme Commander, we're not like you. We don't destroy entire species. Your people will be relocated to a world where they can live peacefully under our supervision. But the age of Vorthan conquest is over forever." Back on the Zephyrian homeworld, Elder Zixnal stood before the Council of Elders, preparing to make the most important decision in his species' history. The old alien looked at his fellow leaders with serious eyes. "My friends," he began, "6 months ago, we accidentally called for help from the Terrans. Today, thanks to their sacrifice, we are free. But freedom brings responsibilities." Council Speaker Vexthul, Kextul's father, raised his hand. "Elder, what are you proposing?" "I propose that we formally request to join the Terran Commonwealth," Zixnal announced. "These humans have proven themselves to be honorable protectors. Under their guidance, we can build a better future." The council chamber erupted in discussion. Some of the younger Zephyrians were excited by the idea of joining with the humans. Others worried about losing their independence. But Elder protested. "Council member Hexnal, we have always been an independent species. Can we trust these aliens with our future?" Zixnal smiled at the irony. "My friend, 6 months ago, we were facing extinction. Today, we are free to choose our own path. The Terrans didn't conquer us. They liberated us. There is a difference." The vote was unanimous. The Zephyrians would join the Terran Commonwealth as its first alien member species. Captain Lisa Grant stood on the bridge of the UE's Thunderbolt, now serving as the flagship of the new Terran Commonwealth Defense Fleet. The young woman with the short brown hair had been promoted to Admiral after her excellent service during the war. "Admiral, we're receiving requests for membership from 17 more species," reported her communications officer. "They all want to join the Commonwealth." Grant smiled. "Put them through to the diplomatic corps on Earth. President Clark will want to review each application personally." The establishment of Fort Harmony on the Zephyrian moon marked humanity's first permanent base outside their home system. The massive space station would serve as the headquarters for Commonwealth operations in the region. Commander Alex Thompson, now serving as the base's diplomatic officer, was working with representatives from dozens of species to establish the new government structure. The young man with the bright smile had become one of the most important figures in the galaxy. "The Kelrani want to contribute their mining expertise," he reported to Admiral Grant. "The Vexians are offering to share their medical knowledge. Everyone wants to help build this new alliance." "Good," Grant replied. "We're going to need all the help we can get. Building a galactic government is even harder than winning a war." Dr. Helen Parker had been promoted to head of the Commonwealth's Xenological Research Division. The young scientist was working with alien researchers to establish cultural exchange programs between all the member species. "Admiral Martinez, I've completed the preliminary reports on the 47 liberated worlds," she said during a video conference. "Each species has unique knowledge and abilities that could benefit the entire Commonwealth." Martinez, now serving as the Commonwealth's Supreme Military Commander, nodded approvingly. "Doctor, your work is vital to our success. We need to prove that different species can work together peacefully. The most challenging part of the post-war period was dealing with the Vorthans themselves. Colonel Steve Murphy had been put in charge of the relocation program, moving millions of former Vorthan citizens to their new homeworld. "They're not all bad," Murphy reported to his superiors. "Many of the younger Vorthans are actually grateful to be free from their empire's military culture. They want to live peaceful lives." "What about the older ones?" asked General Webb. Murphy shrugged. "The older generation is having a harder time adjusting, but they're cooperating. I think they're just glad to be alive." President Amanda Clark stood before the United Nations General Assembly, preparing to address the world about humanity's new role in the galaxy. The middle-aged woman looked older than her years, worn down by the weight of leadership during such a crucial time. "My fellow humans," she began, "6 months ago, we were alone in the universe. Today, we are the leaders of a galactic alliance. That includes dozens of species and hundreds of worlds. This is not a responsibility we sought, but it is one we must embrace." The president paused, looking out at the faces of world leaders who were still trying to understand how much everything had changed. "We did not set out to become the guardians of the galaxy," she continued. "We simply answered a call for help. But in doing so, we discovered something important about ourselves. We are not conquerors. We are protectors. And that makes all the difference." On the bridge of the UE's Vengeance, Commander Ryan Burke was leading a patrol mission through the outer systems, watching for any signs of trouble. The stocky man with the thick beard had been promoted to admiral and given command of the Commonwealth's Rapid Response Forces. "Sir, we're detecting a distress signal from the Tau Ceti system," reported his sensor officer. "It's from a species we've never encountered before." Burke smiled grimly. "Well, that's what we're here for. Set course for Tau Ceti, maximum speed. Let's go see who needs help today." As the Vengeance jumped into hyperspace, Burke reflected on how much had changed since that first accidental call for help. The galaxy was no longer a place where the strong could prey on the weak without consequence. Now there were protectors watching, ready to answer any call for help. Back on the Zephyrian homeworld, Kekstool stood in the same communication room where he had sent that fateful message 6 months earlier. But now, instead of calling for help, he was sending messages of friendship to species across the galaxy. "Another successful first contact," he reported to Elder Zixnel. "The Andorians have agreed to join the Commonwealth. That makes us the 53rd member species." The old elder smiled. "Kekstool, do you ever regret making that mistake with the communication frequencies?" The young alien laughed. "Regret it? Elder, that mistake was the best thing that ever happened to our species. We called for help, and the entire galaxy answered." "Not the entire galaxy," Zixnel corrected. "Just humanity. But as we've learned, sometimes that's enough." Admiral Martinez stood in his office on Fort Harmony, looking out at the stars through the massive windows. The dark-skinned man who had led the largest military operation in human history was now responsible for keeping the peace across dozens of star systems. "Sir, we're receiving reports from patrol fleets across the Commonwealth," reported his aide, a young woman named Lieutenant Kelly Davis. "No major incidents to report. The galaxy's quiet." Martinez nodded. "Good. That's exactly what we want to hear." As he watched the stars, Martinez thought about the strange chain of events that had brought them to this point. A simple translation error had led to the creation of the largest peaceful alliance in galactic history. The Zephyrians had called for help, and humanity had answered with such overwhelming force that they had accidentally become the protectors of the galaxy. But perhaps it wasn't really an accident. Perhaps humanity had always been meant to play this role. They had the technology, the military strength, and most importantly, the moral courage to stand up for those who couldn't protect themselves. The communication system chimed. And Martinez saw the face of President Clark appear on his screen. "Admiral, I've just received word from the exploratory fleet," she said with excitement in her voice. "They've made contact with a new species in the Vega system. They're asking for our help with a problem." Martinez smiled. "What kind of problem?" "Ma'am? Pirates," Clark replied. "It seems some of the former Vorthan military have gone rogue and are attacking merchant ships. The locals want our help to stop them." "I'll dispatch a task force immediately," Martinez said. "We can't let former